my name is Monica Shafik. Date of birth is January 4th, 1997, which makes me 24.
Capricorn?
Yes, I am. Capricorn.
Yeah.
And region, Sudan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're also Egyptian, correct?
I am. I'm Coptic and I'm Coptic, but I lived in Sudan and I also lived in Egypt.
When did you immigrate to Canada and why?
I immigrated to Canada when I was, I believe, 3 or just turned 4. Mm-hmm. Honestly, we immigrated for financial reasons, but also because there was a lot of, I guess, unjust treatment, to put it vaguely, that the Coptic community in Egypt was experiencing at the time and prior to, and unfortunately after. Mm-hmm. So like many immigrants, we sought, or my parents specifically sought for a better, safer life for me and my sister. So we immigrated to Canada.
Why Canada?
Honestly, I kind of ask my parents that a lot, especially during snowstorms. Why Canada?
Yeah.
Honestly, I believe they received, I'm not too sure about the technical term for it, but they received, I guess, the ability to apply for citizenship in Australia as well as Canada. But my mother has a twin sister who was living in Canada at the time. And also my dad has a first cousin that was living here as well. So between moving to Australia, where I think we may have had extended family, and coming to Canada where both parents had immediate family, they chose to come here.
Why Toronto?
Again, my mother's twin sister, as well as my dad's first cousin, were both living in Toronto. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's also where the first Coptic Orthodox Church, St. Mark's, where I grew up.
St. Mark's, yeah.
Yep, that's also where it was based out of. So a lot of Egyptians, once they were able to immigrate to Canada, first came to Toronto, and to my understanding, branched out from there.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And what was it like settling in a new city?
To be completely honest with you, again, I was like 3 or 4 at the time. So I don't necessarily have too much of a recollection as to like what the settlement process was, but from the stories that both of my parents have told me, it was definitely quite the shift for both of them. Mm-hmm. Arabic was both of their first languages, so the learning curve of learning a new language for my mother was, I wouldn't say difficult, but obviously like it was a steep learning curve, but both of them took English throughout their time in academia when they were in school. So it wasn't a completely foreign language, but using it on an everyday level, professionally at work was definitely a steep learning curve for both of them. They knew enough to get by because they were studying English in school, but obviously it's different from when you use it in academia for a few courses versus when you use it every day professionally.
And what kind of struggles or challenges did you face?
I was fortunate enough to go to school learning English and go to daycare being exposed to English and Arabic, as opposed to my sister, who is a few years older than me, and she actually went to school in Egypt and then went to school here. So she had a lot more of a steeper learning curve, learning English and going to school in English than I did. Mm-hmm. But I guess like where the struggle was sort of happening was establishing a balance between keeping my Arabic language at home and using it and developing it versus compartmentalizing that and then coming to school and learning English and French.
Do you maintain any connections with Egypt? Do you have family there? Do you send money abroad?
I have a huge family, and thankfully, I've met some of them. Obviously, we're all around the world these days, from Australia now to Canada to places in Europe. That said, I do have a strong connection to my family members back home, more so specifically my mom and dad, because they were obviously old enough to remember them when we were in Egypt. But I do believe that I keep in touch with them as much as I can. And I do have a connection with them. I just haven't gone to see them in a while. But yeah, I do have also a financial connection as well.
And do you have any family in Sudan too?
Yes, we do. Yeah, family in Egypt, Sudan. I think at this point, 17 countries.
Oh God, yeah. Were there any institutions or associations that helped you guys settle in?
I believe the church was a huge factor. Again, St. Mark's Coptic Orthodox Church based in Scarborough. Mm-hmm. Now we have another church, the Cathedral, which is based in Markham, just down the street. I don't necessarily know if there was a formalized institution, but there was definitely a welcoming committee. And outside of the two family members that I mentioned, we did have extended family and family by marriage that were living here. So everyone kind of just really looks out for each other, especially when it comes to immigrating and starting fresh here. So in addition to the church and the church's, I guess, more formalized welcome package, I guess, that we used, we also had a lot of friends and family who reached out, tried to support us as much as they could, and tried to help us like get settled in as much as possible.
And what do you keep of your home country? Any special customs, foods, mannerisms, and things like that?
My parents really made an effort to make sure that we maintained as much as possible our connection to the motherland, while also understanding that we are immigrants and trying to get settled and situated here. So yeah, definitely, like, my mom cooks everything that you would find in Egypt, I guess, as much as I am aware. Yeah, so it's everything from culture to language to media consumption. My parents really did as much as they could to make sure that we didn't lose that connection, and we weren't necessarily too westernized to the point that we couldn't relate or couldn't connect with like family and like our culture and heritage. And also, I feel like the church plays a huge role in like the maintenance of those cultural, social, linguistic norms.
Do you believe that Sunday school helped you as a child acclimate to society?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. Because it gave me both the religious sort of aspects of what the tenets or the cornerstones of my faith were, but also I'm very fortunate enough to say that all of my Sunday school servants, were able to give me very practical and very applicable ways in which to apply the lessons that I've learned into my everyday life. And so it wasn't ever like foreign knowledge or incompatible with daily life. So I'm very grateful for that.
And did you make friends during Sunday school that you still have till this day?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate enough to spend most of my young and I guess adolescent years in the same church. And I still have a very strong connection to St. Mark's. Obviously, like with COVID, not able to go as much, but yeah, I'm very involved and very still connected to the community. So the people, unless you moved away or got married and got married and moved away, essentially everyone's still around, even if they don't necessarily attend the same church. We kind of just all see each other.
How is your life now compared to when you first arrived?
Well, given the fact that I was 3 or 4, I don't necessarily have a comparable frame of reference for that, but given the stories that unfortunately like my family has told me and just seeing what members of my community have faced back home, I think that it's understandable to everyone who experiences or everyone who immigrates that your life does change in a very major way. You know, I can't necessarily speak to what my life would have looked like had I stayed in Egypt, but I can definitely say that there have been more opportunities afforded to me as a woman, and as a young woman who came here, who was able to grow and develop, I guess, in Canada, than I would have received back home. You know, and one specific example that I can think of is my journey and my passion in law. And so in Egypt, they actually don't allow the appointment of female judges.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, I believe in America, we celebrated the fact that, I believe it was a few years ago, there was actually a Coptic woman who was appointed to the bench in America.
Mm-hmm.
And not just that, but just being able to pursue, I guess, a career or an interest in the legal field as a woman here. I definitely feel like it doesn't come without its challenges, but there definitely is capacity for me to grow and hopefully maybe even transition into a position at some point in my career that would allow me to sit on a bench. Whereas in Egypt, obviously, unfortunately, that dream can't happen as of yet.
Have your feelings on like being Egyptian and Canadian changed over time?
Yes, definitely. And this is actually where the intersection of my particular perspective at work, I feel, comes into play, because being Egyptian and being specifically indigenous to Egypt, we've had to deal with our own particular set of circumstances, experiences of discrimination in many different forms. And so that was a huge reason that both of my parents decided to come to Canada when we were able to. Mm-hmm. But living in the North American context as an immigrant and as an immigrant that comes from an Indigenous background, I was really able to explore more deeply, I feel, the relationship between the Canadian state and its own Indigenous people. And through studying that history, I was able to connect more deeply to my own. And not only that, but realize that there's a lot of parallels between the ways in which Coptic and Nubian people are treated by their governments in Egypt, like where I'm from, and also the treatment of North American Indigenous people, specifically within the context of Canada, by their respective governments. So it's like there are unfortunately a lot of parallels between the North American and the Egyptian Indigenous communities' experiences with discrimination, but I feel like being here and living here, but also coming from that history and coming from that lineage, has given me a particular lens in which I can navigate both spaces.
Mm-hmm. What does Egypt mean to you?
Egypt is one of those places that both excites me, confuses me, and kind of breaks my heart from time to time, because especially living here but also having such a huge connection back home, it's almost like I always have one foot out the door in both places. The recent developments that have been happening in Egypt and sort of the political, cultural pushes that have been occurring and the developments make me excited for what the future has in store for Egypt, but also periodically seeing images or seeing news articles or reading news articles about recurring violence against members of my community still hurts me. Like, I haven't felt as though I've been numb to, the occurrence of violence against Coptic people, and also violence against Nubian people, even though I don't think I'm Nubian myself. But it's a very exciting, very confusing, and periodically heartbreaking to sort of see what is happening in Egypt. But overall, I'd say I'm very excited with the way that things are going and the developments that are happening. I'm very excited to see where Sisi is going to take Egypt, to be honest, for the most part.
What is one feeling or sentiment that you feel towards Egypt?
Honestly, I know that I'm going to get attacked for this, but it's fine. I would, if I'm comparing it to food, I would say something like a well-prepared bowl of fasik.
Oh, I don't know fasik, but
because I have to say, some people absolutely love it, and then some people cannot stand it. So yeah. I am the former. I love it. I'm sorry. I know I'm gonna get attacked. I'm sorry.
No, I like it. I like it. the salt of the earth.
There we go. It's the connection to the ancestors, you know? They used to eat it, we used to eat it. It's fine.
I like
but
it.
At the same time, unfortunately, there were cases where people died because it was not made right.